Attention, culture consumers. Join me, the Queen of Queries, Sara O'Connor, and my band of nerdy knights.
Colleen McMillan.
Flo Siegel.
And Anders Drew.
On Bohemian Geek Studies, where we take extremely dorky dives into our favorite fandoms, especially that Star Wars galaxy far, far away. Listen each week as we examine the stories that mean so much to us. Bohemian Geek Studies is available wherever you get your podcasts and is proudly part of the Forgotten Entertainment family.
Do you like beer?
Do you like podcasts?
Do you like beer podcasts?
Then check out Crackin' One Open, a podcast about brews, news, and pop culture reviews.
Every week, we crack open a new craft beer from breweries around the country.
And sometimes the world.
We'll talk about how it was made, what's in it, the history of the brew, and the brewery.
Then we'll give our tasting notes, and while we're finishing up, we'll talk about some of the latest goings-on in the world of pop culture.
So check out Crackin' One Open with Mike and Elise, part of the Forgotten Entertainment family.
Hello there. I'm Colleen.
I'm Anders.
And I'm Daniel.
We're three nerds that met through our love of science fiction and fantasy storytelling. Of course, one of our favorites is George Lucas's signature achievement, Star Wars.
And if there's one thing the internet definitely doesn't have enough of, it's nerds talking about Star Wars. So here we are with yet another Star Wars podcast, where every week we journey to a galaxy far, far away to discuss one of the films in the current Star Wars canon.
We'll talk about how our relationship with the film has changed over time, how the film builds on what came before it and forms our understanding of the Force. Finally, we'll provide you with some recommendations for other material you may enjoy if you love these movies just like we do. And this week, we're joined by a very special guest star. She's back again. Back again, she can't be stopped. From Bohemian Geek Studies, we have the Queen of Queries, Sara O'Connor.
Hello, it is an absolute thrill to be back amongst you amazing Star Wars talented experts.
Yes, experts.
Well, I get
Quote,
to serve
quote.
as the excited Padawan, so that's my little position here.
Perfect. Well, this week we're going to be looking at 2015's Episode 7, The Force Awakens, the first major Disney Star Wars film, guys. But before we get started, this episode is dropping on Star Wars days. So, guys, may the 4th be with you.
And also with you.
Woo! Happy Star Wars Day, guys. It's also a pretty major big day, though, in Star Wars fandom because The Bad Batch premiered today. All 70 minutes of that first episode. Yes. So excited. So just as a quick little celebration of all of this stuff, I wanted to ask you guys what generally one thing you love about Star Wars and one thing you're excited for The Bad Batch.
So happy Star Wars Day. I really love the mythos of Star Wars. Pretty much the more mystical you can get in the Star Wars content, the more that I love it. So Rebels is probably my most favorite Star Wars movie or show because of the world between worlds and the mysticism that the series contains and Bendu and all of that. But you know what? I have to say, I'm super excited for this movie because you get some of that mythos with Rey and how powerful she is. And I'm really, really, really excited to be able to talk with you guys about that today. And when it comes to The Bad Batch, I'm going to pick two things, not just one. I'll keep it quick. I think Wrecker is an absolute hilarious character. He has some really great punchlines, and I'm really looking forward to falling in love with him more. And then I cannot wait to see what the backstory is on this kid and what they bring to the table, because I was not expecting a little person in this show. And I'm really, really, really excited to see what they bring.
Yes, same. We only get to choose one. Sara said,
Sara
heck that. Sara said, heck that. So I'll probably do that too. Most looking forward to in the Bad Batch Rex content. Please give all of the Rex to us. And I really want to see if Sarah's and my really early from Clone Wars Season 7 kind of prediction comes true, if our little sharpshooter is going to be bad, if he's going to break Bad Batch on us and turn on his brothers. Very interested to see if that happens.
Yeah.
Across Sarah, we'll see. For Star Wars in general, I love Rebels also. Love, love, love everything about it. But I worship at the altar of Carrie Fisher and Princess Leia. Both women are such like a force to be reckoned with, and the actor and character bring me joy pretty much every day. If I'm thinking about Carrie Fisher or Leia, I'm happy.
That's fantastic. Carrie Fisher, we love you. So I can't just say one. I have to mention my love of space battles. Space is the best, and I love it. Also, I love when Star Wars isn't afraid to stray from the light and dark dichotomy, and they kind of sit in the gray of things, like you see in
Yeah.
Rogue One, The Mandalorian, and Clone Wars, and of course my favorite KOTOR 2. And for the Bad Batch, I am really happy to see more of Echo. I am so happy to see him. I hope he's doing well and he's adjusting to his new life in the Batch and his, cybernetics.
Cool. And on my end, I mean, Star Wars in general, I'd say the thing I love most is the characters. I love spending time with the characters. Shouts to my guy,
Yeah.
Hondo Onaka. And then
Hondo.
Bad Batch, Hondo. And then Bad Batch, similar thing. The character I'm really looking forward to see again. Ming-Na Wen as Fennec Shand coming back.
Yes.
Nice little
Oh my
tie-in to
gosh, I had forgotten
Mandalorian.
about that.
Badass.
Yeah, I know everyone's excited for the clones, but no, give me bring in the cavalry.
No, I'm
course.
with you on that, Anders. I'm more interested in the side characters than the Bad Batch themselves, but I'm excited.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've all said like, oh, we want to see Rex. Oh, we want to see Fennec. Like, yes, we do want to see the Bad Batch, but a lot of Star Wars is about the side characters that you kind of are like, but wait, where's Hondo? Or where's Maul? Like, we want to know where these other people are.
Yes. And I think between all of us, we will be doing some very deep dive coverage into the Bad Batch. What form that fully is going to take, keep an eye on our social media channels and on Bohemian Geek Studies channels, because I'm pretty sure BGS will have a detailed dorky dive into the Bad Batch. But getting into our main topic today, The Force Awakens. Guys,
Yes.
this
Yes.
movie blew up when it premiered. So this movie premiered on December 14th, 2015. Wide release was a few days later, December 18th. It was directed by J.J. Abrams, co-written by J.J. Abrams, Lawrence Kasdan, that guy who wrote a little film called Empire Strikes Back, and Michael Arndt. It grossed $936.7 million US and Canada, $1.132 billion overseas, for a total box office gross of $2.068 billion. It was the 24th movie to ever cross the $1 billion mark and the fastest at the time to reach that milestone in just 12 days. It was the third movie to ever cross the $2 billion mark, which it did so in about 53 days.
My word.
I
So
know.
impressive.
Yeah. I did also see the estimated profit of the film. So when you take out the film's budget, the marketing budget, everything else associated with it, the profit was around like $780 million for Disney.
Holy crap.
Good Lord.
Which, when you
Some
think they
chump change
bought,
right there.
they bought Star Wars from Lucas, they bought Lucasfilm for, what was it, $4 billion? So they
Mhm.
pretty much made almost a quarter of that back on their first outing.
Incredible.
That's, yeah.
Oh man.
But getting into actual discussion on the movie itself, guys, what did you think of this movie? Do you remember the first time you saw it? Do you remember? I mean, this one's a little bit more recent than most of the movies we've talked about so far. How has your relationship with the movie kind of evolved over these last few years? And do you remember the hype?
The lead up to this movie was so much fun since, I'm from a Star Wars family. We love this so much. We were devouring all the trailers. I remember one of them came out I think it was Thanksgiving Day in 2014, and we crowded around
Yes.
the laptop to watch it, and it was just so fun. And it was so much fun. And then I got to the theater at midnight with one of my best friends, and we watched it, and it was just everything I wanted. Over time, I think I kind of understand some of the criticisms where it feels a little bit like a New Hope rehashed, but that doesn't stop me from enjoying the shit out of this movie. I love it so much. It's just so much fun. It's just a good, fun movie. I do have some issues with J.J. Abrams, which we'll discuss later, but that really doesn't detract from just what a good ride it is.
I completely agree. Such a great first line too for that opening crawl, like that chill-inducing Luke Skywalker has
Yes.
vanished.
Yeah.
Like, oh
Mhm.
crap! I guess we're really just jumping right in. I love this movie. It is a bit of a New Hope redo, kind of, but it's fun. It's a really fun movie. I remember seeing it in the
anytime-
theater with my friends. What, Anders?
I was gonna say, anytime people say like, "Oh, it's just A New Hope over again," I'm just like, so what?
Is that bad?
Yeah.
But they do it so well that I like it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It hits every single like mark that you would want. I hardly have any unbearables coming up for this movie. We were so excited just to get to see new Star Wars, and we were very cautious in going into it because of the prequels and just kind of preconceived notions of J.J. Abrams from the Star Trek movies, being like, should he be touching Star Wars? We don't know. We'll see going in.
I thought so.
I saw it a bunch of times in the theaters and I loved it. On the rewatch, it zips along at a really great pace. I hardly noticed that it was 2.5 hours long.
Mhm.
And the main actors have fantastic chemistry, which we will talk about later.
Yeah, I cannot agree with you two more. I mean, so I won't rehash it. What I will say is I remember sitting in the movie theater for that first watch, slightly tipsy, and to see that huge ship just bleed across the screen after seeing such an intense crawler, you just knew that you were in for such a ride. And then for the first thing for you to kind of experience is almost experiencing what a stormtrooper feels like. I mean, that was absolutely unprecedented for the time. And so you just knew that, yes, this was Star Wars, but it was something new and it was something powerful. And you had to sit there and you just had to just let it wash over you. It is an absolutely incredible movie. I adore it.
It's so
and-
visceral. There's blood
Yes.
in a Disney Star Wars movie.
That opening
Yes.
act is one of the best in Star Wars. It's just
Absolutely.
that opening scene is fantastic.
Absolutely. The blood on the stormtrooper helmet, that again, absolutely unprecedented. And that was the first 5 minutes. I mean,
Yeah.
it's incredible when you think everything that was packed into that first 5 minutes. And so, yes, unlike most of my Star Wars movies, I did remember the first time I saw it, and I remember the hype, and I remember thinking, finally I get to see a woman on stage like be a Jedi. Like I'm
Yes.
almost starting to cry right now because
Yes.
that was again unprecedented. Like, you know, it's the trifecta. So my relationship to the film, how it's evolved, I've just appreciated it more and more, and I've worn my hair like Rey, and I love it through and through.
Awesome.
Yeah. I remember all of the hype leading up to this movie. Everyone was so excited. I mean, even just the title, The Force Awakens. And we're like, what does that mean? What's it going to be like? Like, you guys talked about the first few minutes. Everything about this movie is just epic in scale. And then I was able to appreciate it a little bit more kind of as a little bit more of an adult, you know. I was able to recognize actors from like other properties for the first time, like the first time you're seeing a movie, whereas, you know, the main cast is mostly unknowns. But you know, I actually knew who Oscar Isaac was. I knew Domhnall Gleeson from the Harry Potter series and from a few other things. I recognized some of the smaller cameos. You know, we'll talk about Simon Pegg in a little bit. And that was kind of a cool experience to see all those little nods and Easter eggs and actually be able to pick up on them and kind of participate in that conversation for the first time on like the first watch of a Star Wars movie, which is something I hadn't been able to do before. Getting into some of the actual details, though, we will start with our favorite ships, our favorite starships that are featured in this movie. Daniel, kick us off.
Oh, and Finn.
Always and forever.
Let's just start
especially
get that out of the way.
Just get that there. All right.
Yeah, you're right. Oh my goodness.
I specified starships
Kylo
from the
Ren
jump.
shuttle. Yes. So Kylo Ren shuttle. It's so
Love it.
goofy. Those wings are so tall. It
I
doesn't
love
really
that
make
thing.
much sense, but it's so cool looking.
Mhm.
I don't get it, but it speaks to me.
It definitely screams Kylo.
Yes.
I mean, you want to talk like Darth Vader comparisons and Kylo. It's got a nice flat top for him to stand on as it comes down.
The
I
platform.
heard Grandpa did that once.
Similar though to the kind of the updated shuttle, the updated Star Destroyers I think look
Terrifying.
so cool. They are so much, they're terrifying. They just look so intimidating on screen, a little bit larger than the ones that we're used to, and I just want to say more like layered. They look a little bit bulkier and like they're distinct. You can almost like see the distinct decks with the level of detail that they put into these things. And they just look so cool.
It looks amazing.
Yeah. But I think my favorite little individual ship is probably Rey's speeder that she has on Jakku. It is entirely custom made that she made it herself from some scavenged parts. Kind of a mix between a speeder and a swoop, which is a much more dangerous version of a speeder, usually formed from an old pod racer.
Just an engine and a seat. That's all you need. Anytime the swoops are in a book, I'm like, ooh, somebody's gonna crash. This is gonna be great. This one I really like. Han and Chewie's freighter. They're kind of home away from the Falcon. It's called the Aravana. It's a Baleen class heavy freighter. I love that they named it the Baleen class, which I did not know before doing this outline. And during the movie watching it, I was like, that looks like a whale swallowing krill, or like a whale shark with its mouth open. And then I found out it's called the Baleen class. And that's from a whale. A whale eats krill and shrimp with the little baleen teeth things in its mouth.
Yes, it has the baleen because it doesn't have teeth.
Yep.
That ship is suddenly so cute now.
Yes, it's so adorable. I'm like this poor giant ship that just gets torn apart by the Reptars. Like, oh, I love it. Sarah, how about you?
So let's talk for a quick little second about the Resistance X-Wings and Poe specifically. Poe's X-Wing is so sick. It's a T-70 model with a unique paint job because, of course, just like his droid, like Poe is so freshy fresh. Of course, his ship has to stand out from everyone else's. Like, he is such a diva is the name of a male hustler because that is just what he's got to do.
Yes.
That's so true. Kylo has his special ship and Poe has his.
And so speaking of which, like, I know our next section is favorite alien or droid. So like, of course we have to talk about his baby BB-8. Yes. And so I love one of the things about this droid to make the storyline work. Of course, the droid has to be unique and one of a kind. And I love that they like put that out in the script and make it abundantly clear, because otherwise things just kind of fall apart, right? Because droids can look so similar. But BB-8 is absolutely one of a kind. And I remember when he was first introduced, do you guys remember what it was like seeing a robot being able to move like that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Again, I hate to use this word, but unprecedented. Like, it was absolutely insane to see how quick and just zippy BB-8 is. I love how he moves. I love the thumbs up thing. I love how he trusts Finn and Rey with the location of the Rebel base. Everything about him, like R2-D2 and Chopper, are pure sass. BB-8 is just purity embodied in a metal form. He is just so lovely and sweet.
Speaking of purity and thumbs up and all of that about BB-8, I completely agree. Up until this rewatch, I was utterly convinced that BB-8 was not doing a thumbs up, but that he was flicking. Off Finn.
Yeah.
I thought that this whole time. Yeah, and then my roommate pointed out that, like, no, he's giving him the thumbs up, and you're so right. BB-8 is this little sweet guy who would just give the thumbs up, like, okay, dude, like, we got this.
Yep.
But I was so convinced.
That I had never thought of that before, because I think his beeps are like a little positive in that thing, and it just sounds so cool. I love BB-8. He is my Star Wars Christmas ornament.
Oh,
and he's a practical effect, which I appreciate a lot.
They did a lot of work to do that practically.
Mm-hmm.
Should we move on to my favorite alien now?
Absolutely.
Ooh, yes.
So this has got to be Maz. She understands the Force so flipping well. She's like this mystic. I mean, I talked at the top of the episode. Anytime you get someone mystic for me, like, where's my Qui-Gon? Where's my Maz? Like, where are they at? She is a wonderful short mentor to Rey to use the Force, to embrace who she is. And then also to Finn in such a short order to use the lightsaber. Like, where's the weapon? I need a weapon. Finn, You've got one. It's in your hand. Like, master your destiny, my dude. I also love that she's not just a pure mystic. She also doesn't take shit from people like Han and encourages him to do the right thing. So she's also, I don't want to say sassy, but I think maybe like firm in her convictions. She's someone who knows who she is. And while we don't know her species, we know that she's force sensitive and was born, this is wild, 973 years before the Battle of Yavin 4. Wild. Absolutely.
She's looking
wild.
great for her age.
She looks fantastic.
Yeah.
Also, we just have to say, Lupita Nyong'o,
Yes.
you did so great voicing
Yes.
Maz Kanata. Amazing.
I love her. More Maz, please. In the Lego.
Right.
Anything she shows up in the Lego, I'm like, yay!
Oh yeah.
Yeah, she's
Helping the
great, and
Freemakers.
I wish we got more of her.
Absolutely.
So I have to talk about Unkar Plutt, the junk boss Crowloot on Jakku. I actually don't like him at all. He's a jerk.
Yes.
He tried
Right.
to take BB-8 away. He's awful, but it's Simon Pegg under there, so that makes me happy. We love Simon Pegg.
Yes.
But Unkar, you're canceled. We don't like you, bud. And then also we need to talk about Elo Asti. He's the Abednego pilot. He's one of the first alien pilots we ever get in Star Wars on screen. I know we get some in the extended universe, but
That's an X-wing
on
pilot,
screen,
right?
this is awesome. Exactly. X-wing pilot when they go to attack a Starkiller base. He's also one of the first new species introduced in Star Wars by Disney. We see a few other of his species in the movie, but I just want to talk about him because he's a pilot and I love my spaceships.
And you just don't get that many alien pilots. Like, give us more, please. This one, we had pointed out Unkar Plutt from Jakku. This one is the organic droid hybrid mount of that Jakku scrapper Tidu, who's a dick also. The guy that captures BB-8 in that net and is trying to pull him along. But this poor creature is called a Lugga Beast. According to Wikipedia, they were found on frontier worlds. Their masks were fused permanently onto their faces, and mechanical invasive systems enhanced their durability and working capabilities well beyond their natural abilities.
Gross.
They did not require food or water, as nutrients were fed directly into them by wires.
So I thought we were going to get through this episode without you hurting me with an animal fact, but here we are. So
I'm so sorry.
here we are. I was like, oh, what a nice little dog hybrid, like little dog robot thing. Didn't know it was a hybrid. I put it in the script as a fun robot. And then Colleen comes in and says, hey, actually, your dreams are about to be shattered.
Oh, no.
I personally would have put my money before this on that happening somehow with the Rathtars, that we would find out that the Rathtars were just like chilling in their own little like island paradise somewhere, and Han comes down and takes them. That's not the case.
No, they're murder beasts.
They are just straight up murder beasts.
Yeah.
But I gotta say though, my main alien shout out this time, it's his 5th movie in the franchise, but I'm leaving this one to Chewbacca. He freaking slaps in this movie. He is so funny. I just love his little reactions to Han, and obviously Harrison Ford just playing off of that with all of his charisma and everything. But then there's that scene where Finn's trying to patch him up as they're running away, and he's just being like a petulant child and a terrible patient. Which pays off later when he has that awesome scene with the doctor and she's like totally sarcastically coddling him, like, oh, that sounds scary. You must be very brave. And he's just like, yeah, I am.
While we're talking about Chewbacca, though, I love when Han and Leia get reunited and it's so awkward. And Chewbacca just walks right up to Leia, gives her a big old hug because that's who he is.
Yeah,
absolutely.
He's like, good luck, Han. I'm out.
I know, I didn't do anything wrong.
This is our girl. All right, so moving into our next section here, our untouchables and our unbearables. I'll start us off with my untouchables. So, Daniel, you mentioned Lupita and her great work as Maz up at the top. I do want to give Disney some credit here with generally their casting. and who they put into prominence and who they peppered into the background. So, we have Rey front and center as the main lead. We have Finn, a black stormtrooper, all that bullshit controversy that stirred up on the internet.
Why don't you remind listeners, since it's been
Yeah.
a beat, what that actually was?
I just remember when he
There
pops
were,
up in the middle of the
trailer,
desert.
The first trailer.
The very first trailer, it's one of the first shots you see is Finn popping
Right.
up, and it's a black man wearing a stormtrooper uniform. Internet troll boys went insane. They were
Wow.
People
vicious.
threatened to boycott the movie.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah,
all sorts of just
it was awful, and
vile
in that
racist
case-
things said about John Boyega. Like,
yeah, and in that case, Disney did not really step up to the plate and defend their choices and their actors, something that they are starting to learn how to do.
Yeah.
But I do want to give also some credits, particularly when it comes to Maz and Phasma, because I think that there is if you're going to put Gwendolyn Christie in a movie and then you don't really show her face, that's a criticism there. It's wild. But putting women in roles that theoretically it does not matter who is under that mask. It does not matter who
Right.
is doing the motion capture for Maz. But to start to populate those types of roles it's a different type of representation on screen, but it is still an important one to kind of pepper the background. No, you have to do both. You have to do the front and center and the background. But I did want to call out that because I also don't think we were talking about Phasma at any other point, and I can't not talk about
Right.
Gwendolyn Christie.
oh,
That's
love
fair.
She's
her.
incredible.
She's such an incredible actress. But my main untouchable for this movie is the opening. We mentioned it up top. That first 5 minutes gives you such an incredible intro into the state of the galaxy, major key characters, some pretty major plot points, the visual tone that the entire movie is going to take, everything. It does, however, also contain by one unbearable from this movie, and that is Max von Sydow's Lor San Tekka, who does not get named in the movie. We find that out just in the credits and such that is his name. Who is this guy? How or why did he come into possession of this map? First of all, what is this map? Why is it in two pieces? How did he get it? Why do we never find this out in the movie? I looked it up on Wikipedia and the story is out there. I'm pretty sure you have to read the comics to know it. But for such a critical plot point, you shouldn't have to do homework. It should
See,
be.
I don't mind not knowing. I actually I'm more casual of a watcher, and so I'm a little bit surprised that this is your big unbearable, because to me it was just kind of like, I mean, I don't
think what makes it my unbearable, I think, is that we get absolutely none of it. Even just a single line, in A New Hope, in the opening crawl, the rebellion stole the Death Star plans. That tells you everything you need to know. And if you want, you can go and explore the entire Rogue One story, and that's there, and it's an amazing movie. We'll talk about that in a few weeks. But here, it's just what is this map? How the heck?
I think we're a little too in the dark.
Yeah, we're just a little too in the dark for pretty much the MacGuffin of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
interesting.
The central driving force of the plot.
I don't mind it. I don't mind it, but I see definitely where you're coming from, because yes, you have to go if you want that information. You do have to go dig.
Right, even if Lars had a single line that was in all my travels with Luke, something to indicate how or why he would be in possession of this information. Just a little bit there.
Instead of having to be oh, he's of the Church of the Force, and you have to go
Not
and
named
find
in
that
the movie. Yeah, all this stuff that is
true.
if you actually want to know anything. So that is my one unbearable. It is still definitely, you can still just sit back and enjoy the ride, which I do every time I watch this movie.
Mm-hmm.
That's just your nit. You're picking that nit.
I'm picking that nit.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying, Anders. Well, I'll start bringing up some of my untouchables. We've talked about the chemistry between all the characters. They are so instantly likable.
Yeah.
They're just such fun characters. Rey, Finn, Poe. I'm in on all of them from the jump. What a fantastic casting, great performances. For that to be our new trio, Disney really struck some gold. And not to get too nitpicky in my untouchables, but they kind of messed with that in the future. But for this first movie, what gold they struck. Kylo Ren, I understand people try and say, oh, he's kind of whiny. He's like, he just wants to be Vader so bad.
Well,
That's
not a
the
teenager.
point.
He's like an early 20-something. Of course, he's whiny.
Yeah, he's a dark side user who's the grandson of Darth Vader, who's being groomed to like make himself believe he has to be the new Vader.
He's being groomed to become as big of a drama queen as Vader.
Yeah, exactly. Like he's just like Anakin. Why are we upset over him? Like,
right.
I thought Adam Driver was so good. I love when Kylo loses control and just starts bashing his lightsaber on consoles, and when he finds that Rey's missing, he freaks out. I think that's fantastic.
The stormtroopers who just like turn and move the other direction.
Yes. They're
like, we're gonna go down the other corridor. He doesn't kill any of his men. That's a plus.
What great self-control there.
No force choking anybody. It's helpful.
As much as I enjoy, parts of the prequels, that CGI left a lot to be, left a lot to be desired. And here, the CGI is used in conjunction with actual real sets and real stunt work in a way that makes everything look so much better. It gels so much more. So visually, I think this movie looks so good.
The texture in this movie is so incredible. Everything looks like you could physically reach out and touch it.
Right? Like when they're on Jakku, you're like, oh, they're really in the sand there. When they're on Starkiller base, you're like, oh, it looks like they're in the snow. Like there's a realness to everything that's fantastic. And then as a certified Starship freak, the dogfight on Starkiller base is just pure. It's amazing. It's everything I want. At one point, you get an in-cockpit look as someone's firing and dodging like missiles coming from the base. It's everything I want. And then the last thing I'll leave us on is this fantastic quote from Maz when she sees Han Solo without Chewbacca. Where's my boyfriend? Exactly, Maz.
I like
She's
that
perfect.
Wookiee.
I like that Wookiee. She's so perfect. My unbearable is really just the whole J.J. Abrams mystery box shtick. If you knew you were only going to write and direct the first one, don't leave so many unanswered mysteries that fans are going to pick apart. Who is Snoke? Why did he seduce Kylo Ren? Rey's Force vision, amazing scene. I love it every time because it enraptures you in the moment. But he left hints in there that we really don't pick up on later sometimes. Like, why is Obi-Wan reaching out to her? She literally never speaks to Obi-Wan again.
Yeah.
Why does she see Kylo Ren and the Knights of Ren when the Knights of Ren weren't there when the temple gets destroyed? Because it's implied that's the temple being destroyed. I understand some things probably weren't plotted out in the future, but if JJ, you can't plant all these little mysteries if you're not going to be there to complete it. If he had been there for the whole trilogy, perfect. Or if he had left maybe some answers on, I know there's debate on whether they had plotted the whole story out or not, but no, they did not. And we know.
Yeah. To say one quick thing on the Obi-Wan front, though, that it's one of my favorite like little tidbitty information from this movie. At one point, Obi-Wan reaching out to Rey through the Force, he calls her out by name. He calls out Rey. And instead, most of the stuff they did was pulled obviously from Ewan McGregor. But for that one little Rey, they took a clip of Alec Guinness saying the word "afraid" and just cut the audio of the Rey part. So they actually got Alec Guinness back into this movie as a little Easter egg.
Yeah, which I love that. I love that. So like, I wish we did something with the JJ. Because like I love Rey as a character, and that vision is so cool. And I was like, what is this going to mean for her? It doesn't dampen how much I like Rey, but it dampens my love of JJ a bit. Also, like I was saying, why do I care about the New Republic? Why do I care? We know nothing about them. They get blown up like the minute they're introduced. I just, I wish that JJ had put a little bit more time into like crafting the state of the galaxy with the Republic and things like that. You know what? cut the Rathtar section and just devote those minutes to fleshing out some of the world, and I would have been a lot happier. But Anders, like you were saying, I'm still going to be along for the ride, and I'm still going to love it. But as a, I like all the lore and stuff, so I want to know more. So that's my unbearable for it.
So I've got a few untouchables, and if anyone wants to chime in, just go ahead. I mean, first of all, we've already talked about him. The cutest freaking droid in the galaxy is introduced. And of course, I know people were saying this is a lot like A New Hope, but I love that he's given a piece of vital information to keep safe, just like R2-D2. I mean, I think that is precious and perfect. I think the way that they made us feel for a stormtrooper, absolutely incredible.
Yes.
Kylo's voice when he's behind the mask, absolutely chilling. They nailed that voice. Nailed it. One thing that
he looks intimidating too.
Yeah, he
yes,
looks scary.
He does.
Yeah.
Abso-freaking-lutely. You don't want to mess with that guy. No freaking way.
No.
I think one of the things that had been missing in the prequels was a little bit of that like Star Wars classic banter. And Poe brings that Han Solo banter that was missing in the prequels, I at least think.
Yes.
Definitely. In a little bit more of an updated way. Like,
Yes.
I don't think Han Solo would have that like, you talk first or I talk first that he does right in the beginning. It was so funny.
Hysterical.
So good. So good. And then when he's tortured, that was some absolutely incredible acting. Like, I legitimately forget sometimes in the scenes with Adam Driver, the fact that the Force is not real when he's like compelling Rey and Rey is shaking, or he's compelling Poe and Poe is shaking. I don't know about you guys, but I feel as though the Force is absolutely real, and I don't believe that I'm watching a video anymore. I believe that I'm watching a documentary about I mean, it's absolutely incredible how their bodies shake and make you feel as if it is totally real. And part of that, of course, is the sublime music. We've already talked about the incredible environments, but the music itself is a character all unto itself. Go ahead, Anders.
No, I'm just agreeing with you. I'm saying yes.
Always the music.
Always the music. John Williams knocking it out again.
Think it is so hilarious and wonderful how they treat the Millennium Falcon. Like, that ship is just garbage. Yep. I think it's absolutely hilarious to me because, of course, that ship isn't garbage. We know it's precious to us. It's precious to all of us. But it's this great way of showing for the younger generation, like, something before came and technology advances. But I love how the Millennium Falcon is treated and how absolutely proficient and tech savvy Rey is, because she's such a great role model for young girls. And Daniel had mentioned one of the star like fights in the sky, but I think what's incredible is there were actually 3 spaceship chase scenes, and all of them felt spectacular. And I didn't feel like any one of them was overkill. They all made sense and all moved the plot forward, which is absolutely incredible to think that you fit that much action of that particular kind of action without it slowing the movie down. That's incredible.
The actors helped so much there. The banter part with Rey and Finn, and then Finn and Poe when they're back to back in the tie is just like sizzling. Like, oh my God. The best starfighter scene of all time.
I remember this line from, oh my God, I'm blanking on the word. The like,
trailer.
The trailer. Chewie, we're home. Get the fuck out of here.
Yes. Like
what? Like tears, because as Colleen said earlier, we were starving for a Star Wars movie, and it was coming home. It was coming home in the theaters. That's incredible. And speaking of crying about Han Solo, I cried when Han Solo died. I mean, again,
actually, I hate this movie because it killed Han Solo and it broke my heart.
And then my last little untouchable is that like I'm a defender of droids on Bohemian Geek Studies, and I love almost everything that has to do with droids in Star Wars. And the fact that BB-8 thinks that R2-D2 has the rest of the map and all of the humans are just bumbling around wondering what to do. I mean, of course that little droid did it, right? Of course that little droid is right that R2-D2 had the map all along. So I love how they used the droids in this movie, including 3CPO and the awkwardness between Han and Leia and C3PO not being able to get out of that awkwardness. I mean, the usage of droids in this movie is absolutely phenomenal.
Yes. He won't recognize me because of my red arm. Like, yeah, that's why I wouldn't recognize you.
Yeah. Oh, one other like small detail with the droids and the fights or the chase scenes and stuff. I love when like the Falcon flips over and BB-8 just like shoots out the like grappling hooks to hold himself in place.
So clever. So clever. So moving on to my unbearables, I have kind of like 1.5. So I'll do the first one because I really liked it in the movie theater, but I don't necessarily like it upon reflection. I both love and hate how Rey and Finn know who Luke and Han Solo are. It's a little bit wild, right? The galaxy is huge. How do they know? How do both of them? I mean, it's more plausible that Finn would know, but it seems so implausible to me that they would know who Luke and Han are. Can you guys help clear this up for me?
I like that they both have different answers. Like they go, the smuggler? No, the general.
Right.
So Rey says the smuggler, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It would make sense that Rey thinks of Han Solo as a smuggler because all she knows about him really is that Unkar Plutt has his ship. And Finn's like, oh, no, I know him. He's a general from the rebellion. Like he would know that from his days as a stormtrooper. So I like that the galaxy kind of knows who these people are, but they don't always know this for the same reasons. Luke, I guess, like he's the larger than life hero of the rebellion. He's the public face who blew up the Death Star and stuff like that, defeated Vader and the Emperor. So I feel like people would know him pretty well because he's going to be a legend across the galaxy. But it makes me laugh that Han's known as the smuggler out in the Outer Rims and that other people know him as a general.
Yeah. Oh yeah, they were probably all over the Hollows, at least for a little while.
Yeah.
And Han's big on like the racing circuit too, so he's maybe known from that. But yeah, I'm sure Finn had it drilled into his head when he was a baby when they were like bombarding him with stuff. Like, this is one of the enemies of the First Order.
Yeah.
Watch out for these people.
I think it would make sense that like word of these people and and what they did. I mean, the people who blew up the Death Star twice would probably, the ones who killed the Emperor would probably be pretty well known throughout the galaxy. I see your point a little bit, mostly with Rey, because Rey just doesn't look like she has a lot of access to the HoloNet.
Right.
And things like that. And this is actually gets at, I have absolutely zero problem with Rey being able to do all the stuff that she can do. I think it's really cool. I think her force abilities it's fine. They're so well developed. My one thing that I kind of pause at is, how does she know what those force abilities are? Like maybe the telekinesis part, but when she pulls the mind trick on the stormtrooper, I'm like, I get that you're powerful enough to do that. I just don't know how you knew that was a thing.
I think because Kylo Ren tried it on her, so she learns right then and there. That's what it is.
That makes sense. Okay.
I think that's her what you could call like either a leech ability or just her innate ability to figure out and break down, kind of like Sylar from Heroes. She can just force power her way through that. That's how I figured it out, like figure it in my head. It's like, well, she's really awesome at everything. Well, she's got to have some sort of
pretty damn awesome
enhanced ability in order to do this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I had one more untouchable.
Okay.
The whole thing with Han and the two gangs, it got like really slow with the Raptars, and I could have done without it, especially because, and this is my like grinds my gears, especially since Finn was captured by one of them and was able to escape. Like everyone else was being gobbled up by these Rathars and they were absolutely terrifying. But for some reason, one carries Finn around the entire ship as Rey has the time to like figure out how to close the doors on it. It was too much for me. And I think, as Daniel said, the time could have been better spent elsewhere. So that's my only real gripe with the movie. But guess what? I'm still gonna watch it and I'm still gonna love it.
It's still a fun set.
Cast chemistry, you guys. Daisy Ridley, Adam Driver, John Boyega, Oscar Isaac. They're all hot. They can all act. They sizzle on screen together. Like Rey and Poe don't get a scene together in this movie, but every other combination is electric. Every single one of them. They're all perfect. They are all perfect together. Any of them could end up with each other. Like they could all be bi. Yay. Give it to us, Disney. Stop being cowards. I love that Rey's arguably the strongest, most capable person in the room. It's my favorite part of the sequels, that she is this powerful and a woman. And then there's, of course, the angry people calling her a Mary Sue. They can back the fuck off. Like, boo. Boo.
Them.
If she were a dude, no one would have said anything about her overpowering Kylo's mind probe, or how she was able to fight with a lightsaber so quickly, or fly the Falcon. And she didn't do all of it right away. It took a hot minute. Like, she can do it, but it still wasn't like instant.
She carries a bow staff. She's capable in hand-to-hand combat.
Yeah,
Exactly.
She survived on her own on a desert planet. We are literally seeing her Force Awakening, people. Title,
Exactly.
bam, done.
The title right there. I think this movie does a really good job of showing and not telling Rey's capabilities. We see right away she lives in a tough area where there's a lot of goons trying to steal stuff from people. So she has to be good with her hand and with her bow staff. She's constantly in wreckages of vehicles, so she has good technical understanding. And yeah, she's not the greatest pilot right away. She crashes the Falcon a bit, but then she catches on because she's a smart, competent person. We see her catch on to things when Kylo uses the Force on her. She's like, oh, wait a second. I have a connection too. And she starts trying to test the waters. She's like, he can mess with my mind. Can I mess with someone else's mind? I feel like there's logical connections to everything that she does. Like, you see from her environment and from what she goes through, she learns and she's quick on her feet. So Rey, I love you. There's a reason why you're so gifted. It's because you're a badass.
Yep. I mean, Harry Potter was 14 when he pushed that Priory Incantatem spell back at Voldemort. So I don't want to hear anything about a female
Anakin
protagonist
Skywalker
being able to
blew
do
up a
stuff.
droid control ship at 9 years old. Why are we arguing about Mary Sue's? Rey is not a Mary Sue.
No, she is not.
Definitely not. We love you, Rey. Get after it. Okay, next for my, I really do like this kind of cameo situation that happens in these movies. J.J. Abrams, favorite actors in this movie, Ken Leung, I love him from Lost.
Yes.
He shows up as Admiral, I think it's Ushos O Statura. Great, love him. Wish he was in the other movies though, because this is the only time we see him. Who we do see again is Greg Grunberg as Snap Wexley from the Aftermath books. I love you, Snap.
Yes.
I love you, Greg Grunberg.
Where's Mr. Bones?
And I love that you made a Heroes reference earlier that we're now talking about Greg Grunberg.
I know, right? Like, go watch Heroes. Well, at least the first season, and go watch Lost.
The first season.
All of it. Just do it.
Yeah.
All right. Next, my unbearables. I don't have a lot that we haven't already covered. Does Domhnall Gleeson go a little over the top in his kind of like Führer speech? You're damn right he does, and I am here for it.
Yeah, I love it.
Give me more if it's possible, because that was amazing. I do hate what happens to Ilum.
Yes.
And we really don't even know that it's that sacred Jedi planet unless you dig deeper. It's just kind of sad when a planet literally explodes. But the fact that it's Ilum, where the younglings go to get their kyber crystals, is devastating. So sad. Like, where are they getting their crystals from now? Are they all going to have to be like World Between Worlds acquisitions, or what's happening?
We'll talk about it in another episode farther on, but there is a point in canon where they pretty much confirm that Ilum is Starkiller base, and it is devastating.
It's awful. It's just awful. Like, why are we doing this? And Jedda's gone.
Mhm.
So like,
Oh, and Jeddah too.
yeah, all these beautiful sacred places of the Jedi get destroyed, and gotta be somewhere where we can get.
But
these
you gotta
kyber
make
crystals
you
from,
gotta
guys.
make the you gotta make the bigger Death Star. We talked about it on Return of the Jedi.
Yes.
They blew it up, so you make a
Yes.
bigger one. Now they
We
blew
got
that
the
up. Guess what?
funds.
We're gonna make a really big one.
You guys, picture this. Bigger. All the
Same
stats.
thing, but bigger.
Yes. Yes.
Death
same
Star 2, Electric Boogaloo.
thing. Exactly. 2 Death Star, 2 Furious. That's what we need. I also thought when Daniel brought up the New Republic before, it's super confusing when Hosnian Prime is destroyed. A lot of
Mhm.
people thought it was Coruscant because they don't say where they are. We see a city planet get destroyed. So people are
Right.
like, holy shit, is that Coruscant? No, it's not. It's Hosnian Prime, where the New Republic and the Senate are located currently. But still, like, somebody could have said it in the dialogue somewhere.
Explain
like,
it.
yeah, when they're on Takodana, Finn could have been like, holy shit, that was Hosnian Prime. That's where the New Republic is. We got to get out of here, guys.
Yeah.
And that would have been fine. But very small nits to pick in this movie, which is, I love it. I love this movie
It
so
is
much.
just delightful.
Mhm.
Well, then, Colleen, do you want to take us into our next segment here where we talk about what does this film do to kind of build on what came before it? This is all building a franchise, building a story.
Heck yes. All right, so during the prequels, we got a sense of the training that the clone troopers went through. But after the Empire took over and stormtroopers were being trained, we didn't really get a sense of how until a little bit in Rebels when we saw the recruits. And these are recruits that join up. They're not forcibly made to join.
Mhm.
But then in the sequels, we get references from Phasma and Hux about things like conditioning, reprogramming, taking control and training them from birth. So this is like old-fashioned Jedi style. We're taking children, we are training them up to be what we want them to be. It all gives us kind of a clear insight into what it takes to build yourself an army. And also we get that comment from Kylo about using clones instead. Like, maybe we should like call up Brax if he's still alive and see how we can get some clones.
Yeah. And we get probably one of the cooler lightsabers. I mean, it's always the dark side users have the coolest lightsabers in these
Yeah,
movies.
they do.
We have this new variation with Kylo Ren's saber. The prequels gave us that double-bladed, the curved hilt, and here we get the crossguard
Mhm.
that Kylo uses. Its design is from the Scourge of Malachor era, and it does use Ben's original lightsaber hilts.
Mhm.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's pretty cool. So they don't really explain it in the films, but the saber uses a broken kyber crystal. So that accounts for the blade being unstable. So
And it looks so cool.
It looks-
right, and I believe it's because Ben kind of breaks it when he's trying to bleed it.
Yeah.
And so his blade is unstable and it creates that fiery appearance. So the Knights of Ren and the original Ren's lightsaber are explored in the Rise of Kylo Ren comics.
Mhm.
The original leader of the Knights of Ren is named, guess it, Ren.
Ren.
And he
Ren.
refers to his own red lightsaber as the Ren.
Yeah.
So he's very super creative, obviously. I assume he's got something also named the Stimpy.
I was waiting
Yeah.
for somebody to say that.
Yep.
I would think that would be like his big round shield, but he wouldn't have one because he wouldn't think he needs one.
And then next up, we get Jakku in an ode to Tatooine. But instead of moisture farming being the main trade, we get something else. Jakku was the site of the climactic battle between the Alliance and the Empire 6 months after Return of the Jedi, and as such is littered with debris. A small scavenger trade makes a bunch of sense for an obscure system. And one of the things that I think was absolutely incredible and chilling is that moment when Rey is trying to clean some of what she had found, and she looks over at the older woman who's doing the same thing, and you can just see it's just kind of like, this is the future that awaits you, but you know that something more is in store. Not that there is anything wrong with having a trade and living your life as a trade, but you could get a sense that that was not the life that Rey wanted for herself.
I'm so glad you brought that up.
Yeah.
That's another one of those perfect show don't tell moments.
Yes.
Even though she desperately wants to stay there because of her
Mhm.
parents, she can feel this kind of pull, like, but do I really want to stay here?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And I will also say, in addition to Jakku being an ode to Tatooine, Takodana, the forest planet with Maz's cantina on it, the forest there is an ode to Endor from Return of the Jedi, and then the snow on Starkiller Base is meant to evoke Empire Strikes Back, so they did consciously want to call back to all three of the original trilogy movies' kind of most famous locations with that.
Yeah.
So good.
Yes.
Maz's castle is amazing.
Oh, it just looks freaking
With a
cool.
giant statue of her. I'm like, you go, girl. You've been alive for over 1,000 years. You should have a statue. Love it.
All right. And then moving on to our next piece here, not only are we just building kind of the world around us here, we are building our concept of the Force. So what this film tells us about the Force and kind of builds on our understanding of what you can do with it. So one of the coolest moments from the opening, in Empire Strikes Back, we do see Darth Vader just kind of stick up his hand and deflect, absorb those blaster bolts, but you think that might have something to do with his armor. And in the opening scene here, Kylo Ren just straight up stops a blaster with his mind.
And holds it for the entire interaction. I mean, this absolutely blew my mind away when it happened.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
The constant sound of it just shimmering in air is so unnerving. And then he walks away, and then finally it lets out and explodes. And it shocked me the first time. I wasn't even ready for that.
Yeah, I paid like extra close attention because I couldn't remember like what happens to it in the end, if he like manages to dissipate it or if he does let it go eventually or whatever this time. And well,
and isn't like, because Poe is kneeling in front of him at this point, so the blaster bolt is like pointed now at Poe and at him. But Poe would be like the body that's stopping the blaster bolt that he fired, trying to shoot Kylo. Like, oh damn, he's real good at torturing. Speaking of torture, Kylo's mind probing is a little more forceful. Okay, extremely much more forceful than anything we've seen in a film before. We did see it a little bit in the Clone Wars, but that was 3 Jedi kind of mind probe teaming up against Cad Bane, who had kind of this, he could fight back against the mind probe. But here, Kylo breaks Poe pretty easily, and Poe strikes me as somebody who would be very strong and resistant to that kind of thing. So it's really scary. Sara said it before, the acting in those scenes is so intense. This is the whole bamboo shoots under the fingernails kind of stuff happening. Like, ooh.
Yeah, they sell it so well in that moment. So we also see Force visions take a serious step up. We get a combo of the past and the future, and we see it from several different places and peoples, and different people are speaking. You just get a much more visceral Force vision than we've ever seen.
Yeah, it doesn't have that like weird shimmering like border around it that we've seen in the past. It's everything is like a very crystal clear image.
Yeah,
Just
she's
really
surrounded
fast.
by it.
Yeah, and then what sparks that vision in Maz's castle is touching Luke's saber. So this hints at this ability that is explored in some of the Legends and Clone Wars stuff. Shouts to our guy Quinlan Voss, and that's the concept of, I've always never sure if it's psychometry or psychometry.
I think psychometry, at least that's how I
think
say
so.
it in my head.
And then this is this like kind of obscure Force ability that you can actually like read an object's history through the Force by touching it.
Oh, cool.
So by reaching out and touching Luke's
Cool.
saber, you're like absorbing and viewing everything that it has experienced.
Mhm.
Wow.
It's wild when you think about it. Rey kind of has everybody's powers because she has the healing ability. She can kind of commune with animals that we see in the later films, and then this with the psychometry, like she's pulling from like all kinds of different skill sets
Because she's had to use them all
Right.
in her kind of growing up.
And then before we get to our questions, one of the things that I thought was super cool is Kylo just waves his hand to knock Rey out. Like, speaking of how powerful Rey is, Kylo is pretty damn powerful himself. We always talk about him feeling inadequate and inferior to Darth Vader, but whoo-wee, does he knock a punch with the Force?
Yeah.
And we need to talk real quick about, he takes a bolt from Chewie's bolt caster straight to his stomach, walks all the way into the forest, has a fight with Finn and a fight with Rey, and is still alive from all of that.
Yeah.
I know
still
some
going.
people are like, why doesn't he beat them both? He got shot
He's
in the
seriously
stomach.
injured. That's
Is
why
that
he's hitting
why
himself. Yeah, he
Okay,
hit
thank
himself
you.
That's why he's
to
beating
fuel
his
the dark
stomach.
side.
Yeah.
Because the anger and the pain fuels the dark side.
Oh,
I-
gross.
I love that.
Yes.
Again, show don't tell. Such a like if for the people who like, you know, dive real deep into legends and things like that. I pointed that out right away when I watched it the first time. I knew exactly what it was doing because it's like this is just perfect little Star Wars things that they sprinkle in.
Yeah.
Man, literally too angry to die. That's
Yes.
basically what we've got.
Oh,
Yes.
it's Maul.
That's Maul. Yeah, that is Maul.
So I have kind of 3 questions related to the Force. Is it okay if we get to those now?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay, so the first one has to do with Rey coming into contact with Luke and Vader's lightsaber. So Obi-Wan tells her, these are your first steps.
Mhm.
But oh my goodness, what an absolutely terrifying way to come into contact with a lightsaber. I'm used to it being way less traumatizing. No, I mean, how often? I think it's really cool that we understand now why Rey was seeing what she was seeing, because I certainly didn't get that from the movies alone. But how often is it that a kyber crystal acquisition or lightsaber acquisition is this traumatizing? Because if I were Rey, I'd want to run away from this destiny as well.
That is not normal. The
No.
kyber crystal will call out to you. So like
Right.
Rey being called out to it, that's very normal. But then her having that very scary vision is not something that most Jedi are ever going to have. I think that more ties to her position in the universe and being that light side that's rising that the Force is bringing up. So I think it has more to do with who she is rather than the actual lightsaber acquisition process.
Okay.
And her
How
ties
did-
to Kylo, too, I think, are
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
prevalent there.
Okay. And how did Maz get this glorious lightsaber? Because wowee, what a treasure trove to just have.
Damn, we don't know.
Yeah.
So rude. This is one of the lingering questions in Star Wars that we don't get an answer to.
Really?
In one of the comics by Charles Soule, an Ugnaught finds it in Cloud City, but that's like the last point that we know of.
Yeah.
They said they were going to try and cover it, and then our hopes were dashed.
Okay. And
How
then
do you guys think she found it?
It's one of those things that I mean, it's Maz. She has so
Yeah.
much history she's involved in so many different things. Like I wouldn't be surprised if she would if we found out she was actually Lando's like silent partner in Cloud City.
She's also Force sensitive, so I would not be surprised if the Force just called out to her and she's like,
yes.
"Oh, I don't know why, but I need to keep this." Like
that
that's how
seems
I've
the most
always
likely
viewed it.
to me. Yes.
Yeah.
Well, my last one has to also do with a lightsaber. And I wanted to know, why in the world didn't the lightsaber cut through the weapon that the stormtrooper was wielding when Finn and the stormtrooper fought? Because you'd think it would have.
So true. I
Mhm.
have a couple guesses for this. It's an electro baton that he's using. I looked that up because I'm like, what the frick? Sarah's right. Like, what is happening here? It could be like General Grievous had those guards that were the magnet droids that had electro staffs.
Yep,
which
it's the same tech.
could withstand the lightsaber strikes in Clone Wars. It's like, okay, so that could be it. It could also be using cortosis, which is a material that can deflect a lightsaber, but that was more about absorbing the energy instead of deflecting it. So it's probably more like the electro staff, where it's more like dispersing the energy instead of absorbing it.
Yeah, I think it's some kind of electrostaff or like the vibro blades that we
blades.
see the Snoke's guards use in the next film.
Yeah.
It's not
I also-
Beskar.
It's definitely not Beskar. And I do actually want to
Yes.
call out that, Daniel, getting back again to your thing where this movie is showing and not telling. So we have a stormtrooper with one of these, Summaton, whatever it is. So then it would stand to reason that Finn would be somewhat proficient in this throughout his stormtrooper training. So when you combine that plus Kylo getting shot with the crossbow, does provide the explanation for when people are like, oh, how can Finn just like pick up the lightsaber and start using it? Well, he does know how to use handheld weapons.
Yeah,
And
he's been trained
and
since he
Kylo
was a
is
baby.
dying.
Yeah, he's a
literally
soldier.
dying.
Like,
Yeah.
Even if he is a janitor, he still was trained how to do this stuff. Like,
exactly.
that's also one of my favorite parts. Like, what? Janitor? Like, so rude. Don't be mean.
So, one thing I do want to bring up before we come to a close is, we talked about show don't tell, but it seems like JJ did a little bit of don't ask, don't tell in this movie. Because I'm so sorry, Colleen. I didn't realize you were taking a drink at that moment.
Right while I'm drinking.
I rewatching this today. Why are you gonna have Oscar Isaac do that sexy ass lip bite when he sees Finn again? And he's like, "You're a good man." Does a little lip bite, like it looks good on you. Come on, queer baiting through the roof. They have such sparkling chemistry, and then they do that, and then I'm gonna go ahead to Last Jedi for a second too, when they reframe the Han and Leia hallway scene.
Yeah,
I'm like, you can't throw us these little things like that. You know what emotions it's gonna evoke. You can't have those two hot, like, energizing people on screen together with such good chemistry and not have shippers go through the roof.
Right.
So JJ,
yes.
You abused my little queer heart because I saw them on screen and I was like, if I get this hot ass gay couple in Star Wars, I will die with happiness. And they took it away from me.
It would have been so cool to have the love triangle be about Finn.
Yeah.
And that he's got Rey on one side and Poe on the other. And he's like, how can I pick between these two hot people? Oh, Oscar Isaac, obviously.
I mean, they're both hot. I get it for either way, but like,
no, it was there.
Oscar Isaac's right there.
Yeah, the chemistry is insane. I thought they were going to kiss a couple times. And I was like, are they going to do it? Are they going to do it? Is Star Wars going to do it? No, they're not going to fucking do it. God damn. That would have been incredible.
All right, guys. Well, with that, I think we are going to wrap up our main discussion for today. So let's go into recommendations. Colleen, kick us off.
Mm-hmm. All right, so if you're like Anders and really need to know who Laura Santeca is, you'll have to read the Poe Dameron comics by Charles Soule, which isn't too bad because Poe's in them and he's hot. It's Oscar Isaac for a lot of comics, you guys. It's great. For other comics, definitely check out the Dr. Aphra series by Kieran Gillen. It's like if Indiana Jones was a badass woman with no morals, who also teams up with Darth Vader at some point.
Sold.
Yeah, it's hysterical. She is amazing. Zero morals. Like, not.
Zero.
And droids. She's got awesome droids, Sarah.
Oh,
who
yay.
Also have no morals.
Oh, that's even better.
It's so good, you guys. I love Dr. Aphra. I hope they bring her to the screen at some point because that would be amazing.
The audio book that's out with her right now. Yeah, it's really good.
Mm-hmm. I need to get that book. Put that down in my notes to get that book. And then this one is also one of my favorite things. I usually do the Star Wars Rex, but this one, since The Force Awakens, is basically a retelling of A New Hope. Lore Olympus by Rachel Smythe is a webcomic that retells the Greek myth of Hades and Persephone, but with a modern twist. I love when an artist can take something old and make it their own, make it new. The art in this comic is stunningly beautiful. And you can kind of see her artist progression because she gets better as she keeps drawing and keeps writing the story. It's so moving. It's really funny. I will say trigger warnings aplenty for sexual content, including
like good sexual content or bad sexual content.
Both.
Oh,
Both.
Bummer.
There's a lot of angst. There's a lot of Hades and Persephone are fated to be together, romance, and they're adorable. They're so cute. But then also horrific things happen. Because of course they do. There's all kinds of trauma with Hades and being eaten by his dad. And then there's trauma for Persephone with Apollo that I will not go into because it's horrible. But also please read the comic because it's really good. And Hades and Persephone as a couple are super pure and super like adorable dorks trying to fall in love. It's very cute. Recommend for everybody. It is going to be a book at some point, and they are planning a TV show.
Cool.
So we'll have that going out there. For Star Wars books, though, there isn't a ton of sequel content like there is for the prequels and the original trilogy. But if you're interested in the time period, try Phasma, which is, of course, about our girl Phasma. And then Galaxy's Edge, Black Spire. These are both written by Delilah S. Dawson.
So my recommendations this week are things that I didn't really have any Star Wars ones because, like you said, there's almost no sequel content for like the video games or anything like that. So I tried to find things that I thought were spiritually similar to this movie. So while very totally different, I said Mad Max Fury Road. So this 2015 film, they're both 2015 films. You're jumping back into an old franchise after a gap. New characters and actors are taking the forefront.
Badass
women. Thank you. Mm-hmm. So very totally different, but I think that goes well with it. Yeah, deserts. Also, so I've recommended Avatar: The Last Airbender before. I'm also going to recommend its follow-up series, Legend of Korra. So again, following up a beloved series with fascinating concepts and characters. Bit of controversial runs and splits the fandom in some ways, but at the same time is a fantastic series featuring a badass woman in Korra. And her growth throughout that series, much like Rey's growth throughout this trilogy, is really, really fun to watch. And then there's one more I just want to add because I thought of this while I mentioned video games. Because we're talking about badass women who have like good character and are well told, I want to recommend a game called Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice. So that is about a woman named Senua who is part of she's part of a druid tribe, and she is dealing with the emotional loss of a partner's death. And you have to play the game with headphones on because she is going through psychosis and other mental illnesses and problems as she's trying to deal with this. And it's less about, combat and all that as much as it is you are experiencing the story of what she goes through. And she's a very strong character and a very well presented character. It's very tough to play, but it's very worth it. And so because we're talking about strong women, I thought that was very worth mentioning.
Very, very cool. Awesome. All right, I'm going to start off my recommendations with the novelization of this movie. This one is written by Alan Dean Foster. As always, some great, just like extra details included. One actually major change that he makes is he changes how the Starkiller weapon gets powered. They don't do the whole drain the sun thing, which is one thing I do remember wondering about when I was like, okay, it drains the sun. Does that mean it has to move to a new solar system to power itself again? Like, does it have hyperdrive on a planet?
They do mention that it does.
Saccade out there.
But in the novelization, I think they use like a dark matter type explanation or something along those lines to explain how it powers itself. I would also recommend The Perfect Weapon. This is another story by Delilah S. Dawson. It's a short story novella about Bazine Natal, who is the bounty hunter in Maz's cantina that contacts the First Order.
Oh, cool.
So she's got those like really like long black fingers going on and stuff.
And a cool voice.
Yes.
Very cool voice. And then if you're into science fiction, reboot, sequel series and stuff, I have to recommend Star Trek Discovery. Currently on Paramount Plus, was CBS All Access. It's such a good show. And it's such a great
women.
More badass women. Now Captain Michael Burnham taking center.
Love Michelle Yeoh too. Yes.
Michelle Yeoh, yes. So many great characters.
Wait, did you just say Michelle Yeoh's in this?
Yes.
Yeah, Michelle Yeoh's in this.
Okay, I guess I'm gonna have to watch Star Trek.
All right. And Sarah, how about you?
Speaking of badass women, I highly, highly, highly recommend. It's called The Great, and it has to do with Catherine the Great's rise to power. I believe it's on Netflix right now. I think it came out.
I think it's Hulu.
Oh, is it Hulu?
Yeah, it's Hulu.
It is so worth the Hulu investment for that short amount of time. It's got comedy in it. It's got a little bit of, I don't want to say horror, but they don't shy away from blood spilling. They do show what it's like a bit. And it's just a fantastic show that I really hope they do a second season of at a minimum.
Oh, I seriously hope so. Yes.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, thank you.
Badass women we've got.
I know,
Hell
right?
yeah.
Well, thank you all for joining us today. You can find us on Twitter and Instagram at YSWPod. Subscribe or follow us wherever you get your podcasts. Check out all the offerings in the Forgotten Entertainment family at ForgottenEntertainment.com. You can also find Sara, Colleen, and I on Bohemian Geek Studies, where we are currently diving into Star Wars Rebels.
Woot woot.
Woo! Watch Rebels.
Watch Rebels.
Then you can find Colleen's book reviews on BohemianGeekStudies.com, where she is reviewing Star Wars literature. And tune in again next time when Sara will be back with us as we head straight to Canto Bight and discuss Episode 8, The Last Jedi.
Yay!
What a great title. What
Such
a great
good
title.
movie.
All the titles of this series are so good.
Yeah, I can't wait to talk about this movie next week.
All right. Bye, everybody.
Bye, you guys.
Bye.
Bye.